Welcome everyone to the July 1st, 2024 TM Editor's Office Hour.
I just have a quick question about the topic for tourism management. So, for example, if we are having a paper around hospitality services, is that also suitable for tourism management?
Hospitality services?
Yes. For example, like a senior, like their customers' behaviors in hospitality services, is that also considered by tourism management?
Well, we define tourism field broadly. So tourism, if you go back to the early scholars defining tourism, there could include geography, political science, and hospitality, food and beverage, a little bit of everything. So we do define tourism broadly. So you have seen some studies focusing on hotels and Airbnb, sharing economy. And recently we have some studies about food delivery platforms and the traditional F&B.
Yeah.
Yeah, occasionally some museums. So anything related to tourists and tourism, I suppose.
That's that's a good one. I think several years ago we submit a paper, but I think that one is very blurred between leisure and tourism. So we have the comments like this. So, but if it's about hospitality services, I think it's should be considered, right? I just have
Yeah,
a little bit concern
hospitality.
about the topic.
Right,
Okay.
hospitality. Yeah.
Oh, okay, good. That's the only question I have. Thank you.
All right.
Next.
Okay, in the chat box, we have two questions. How to write a good qualitative research article? That's a tough one. And what is the appropriate number of studies to include in an article? Some articles, particularly experimental ones, tend to incorporate many studies. That's true. So I think the second question is easier. Let me go with the second one. What is an appropriate number of studies in an article? Actually, there is no best answer. There's no right or wrong answer. We do see a trend of having more and more studies in one paper. I'm not sure why people do that. The only criterion tourism management states clearly in the guide to authors is that we prefer to publish papers based on multiple sources of data. That's all we're asking for. The point is um, not to include studies that based on a cross-sectional survey, for example, because everybody knows survey bias, measurement bias, sampling bias, a lot of biases could influence the results, the validity, particularly external validity of survey results. So we usually just reject studies based on one single cross-sectional survey data. So usually the reason is, again, to make sure that the results are valid, especially external validity, because rarely we can do random sampling. Without random sampling, then we don't know the results, whether it's a result of the sampling bias or is it, by chance. That's the only thing that we ask for. However, we do see the trend of having more and more studies in one paper. More not necessarily means the better, because we have some study with some papers with, for example, 5 experimental studies. If each one of the 5 is only testing one hypothesis, we still don't know of the external validity. So that would not be a good way to go. If study 1 only tests hypothesis 1, study 2 tests hypothesis 2, so on and so forth, then really each hypothesis is only tested with one source of data, one sample. That's not the original intent of asking for multiple sources of data. I guess researchers become competitive, therefore thinking that having multiple studies would enhance the rigor or the perception of the rigor of the study, but actually that's not true. Going back to the more difficult question of qualitative research, you may want to go back to one of the webinars that we did on qualitative research. We have 3 excellent qualitative researchers sharing their methods, and also I think they touched a little bit on the research article crafting as well. So again, it's telling a story, regardless whether it's qualitative or quantitative. It's the storytelling. You have to have a very clear central storyline from the very beginning to the end. You need to keep that very interesting. Qualitative research, for me personally, is more difficult. It's more difficult to analyze the data. It's more difficult to summarize, to analyze, and then put that in a very logical, coherent, and convincing way. So the thing that we look for in a qualitative research also includes a positionality statement. In other words, what is the position of the researcher? How would because the researcher will influence the way the data are collected or analyzed. Therefore, what is the position of the researcher? And that's a statement usually we look for, reviewers look for in a qualitative research article. So there are different ways of doing qualitative research. Obviously, you could have a theoretical foundation to start with, where you have simply a phenomena, and then you explore at the end, you derive something that could help proposing a theoretical framework or a model or something like that. So it's really a very big question. Probably I would advise you to read some of the qualitative articles that we published, and then go back to the webinar that we did a few months back. We have 3 researchers talking about qualitative research.
Hi, Prof. Katis, everyone. May I ask the question? I actually follow up from the previous 2 sessions. I'm so interested in the theoretical foundation and theoretical contribution to the research, and I would like to seek further advice, because I did not have a chance to discuss or ask the question during the 2 webinars, and I would like to seek for further advice for the fact that I am particularly approaching my theoretical foundation, but there seem to be many theories that use around my study, like governance for sustainable tourism, and some also use network governance, stakeholder theory, or social science. For the fact for my research, I'm quite confused. I'm not so sure what is the best choice in terms of theory. Should I use one, or whether I can marry 2 theories that provide a good foundation for my study. So basically, stepping back a bit, I would like to seek for your general advice. How should like a junior researcher consider the basis for research or theory choice for their research at PhD level, PhD research level, Prof. Thank you.
All right, thank you for the question. Yes, we have 2 webinars talking about the importance of theorizing, and then what constitutes theoretical contribution. It is a big topic, therefore we spent 2 webinars on addressing that issue. Still, we did not have enough time. I guess you just have to start with one. You really understand what's the foundation, what's the origin. I think Professor Noel Scott talked about, you have to really understand what is the paradigm behind that particular theory that you are thinking to adopt. Understand where it's coming from, because we've seen so many studies, so many articles, published articles, they actually incorrectly interpreted the theory that they thought it was, and then apply that theory or use that theory as the foundation to design the study. So really, you need to look at not only how other people use the theory, but go back to the very original piece that very often we will say so-and-so theory and way back, right? Rather than saying this person adopted theory, that person adopted theory, therefore I adopt this theory. Because those two people who adopted the theory, they may have misinterpreted or misquoted, misused the theory. So you really need to go back to the original, whether it's in sociology, psychology, or whatever disciplinary background, and have a very thorough understanding of where did the theory come from and in what context. And to see if your study has a similar context or following the similar train of thought as that particular theory. If it's not, then probably that's not the right theory for you. Simply because other people use it doesn't mean it's the right for your particular situation. So we need to really go back to the original source rather than relying on the secondary citation. And that's how, one side, the other side, the other side, the other, and then at the end, everybody is going down the wrong path. So really you need to, it is very difficult. The front end of the study is the most difficult time-consuming part of the research to determine, okay, this is the path I want to go. But once you determine that, the rest is quite, I wouldn't say easy, but much easier comparing to the front part, because you just follow the progression afterwards. So do spend some time reading the original piece and see where did they come from, in what context did they apply this, did they develop the theory, does that apply to your situation? And if it doesn't, then you have to move on to the next theory to see if the other one works for you. So it takes a lot of time to go through that process, not only reading journal articles, you may need to read some books as well, because some of the older theories, they actually did a more elaborate discussion and showing the rationale and the foundation in a book format. So not necessarily limiting your literature review to journal articles, but also foundation books. Is it okay to combine or merge or integrate two theories? Yes, it is possible, but you have to do that with a reason, rather than using that as a way to say, my research is really more complicated, more comprehensive, fancier than earlier study. Again, more doesn't mean necessarily better. Yes, you can, but then you need to have a good reason. For example, if you say this particular theory really applies to the situation here, however, the shortcoming is this theory doesn't address a very important element, which can be answered by another theory, and that will be okay. But then you need to have a good understanding of both before you do that. Because we've seen journal articles, they probably, if you do a word search, theory, you can see that they use the theory 20 times, and of the 20 times, they mention 8 different theories. That's just citing references. Citing references does not equal to having strong theoretical foundation, right? So it's just like name dropping. It doesn't help at all. So we really need to have a good understanding, make sure the origin of the theory actually apply to or is suitable for your particular situation before you go ahead and adopt it. And then, of course, you need to identify some shortcomings in the current literature, and then add to that by saying, by doing this, then I can really push the knowledge boundary. I discover something that other people haven't discovered before. So again, it's still, I understand it's still a bit abstract. You really just have to do it, dig into it. And then if it takes time, but as you read more, I think one of the the moment will come and say, now I get it. I think this is the right thing to do. So you need to just constantly looking for that light bulb to be turned on and say, hey, this is it. Yeah. But it does take time. We have another question about giving tips about how to respond to reviewers. Some reviewers have mixed opinions. Yes, it is. It is tough. Sometimes we have 3 reviewers and giving 3 different suggestions. It's not uncommon. I have seen lots of, well, not lots, but quite a few manuscript coming back, 1 minor revision, 1 major revision, and 1 reject. So different reviewers do look at different aspects of the paper. And it doesn't mean that they're in conflict with each other, because when we send out a manuscript, we could send out to content experts, theoretical expert, methodology expert. They all look at different aspects of the paper. So concept-wise, it's a good concept. Theory-wise, you did that correctly. However, methodology-wise, you made fatal mistake. Then the one that reviewing the methodology will recommend a rejection, whereas the other 2 may recommend minor and major revision. So I guess for responding to reviewers, again, if you go back to the very early, I think it was the first webinar we did way back last October, the first topic was on responding to reviewer comments. Again, we have 3 panel members here talking about their experiences, both from the author's perspective and reviewer's perspective. Try to be as comprehensive as possible. Try to be as professional, polite as possible. However, it doesn't mean that you have to agree with everything. If you have a strong reason to believe that the reviewers have mistaken the message, didn't get what you're saying, then of course you're welcome to provide a response, and by providing the reason why you're doing the way you did. For example, some of the decisions that you made, this is the method that you use to address a certain issue, and the reviewer say you should use another method which you disagree, then you can provide the reason why you made the decision. And of course, the reason needs to be defendable. For example, you use a particular statistical method, then obviously there should be citation to support your decision. And also, I understand the word limit. Although tourism management doesn't have a strict word limit, we have an approximate. We prefer the authors to keep the papers as short as possible, but there is not really a strict like 10,000 word limit. Some of the authors responded to reviewer comments by explaining the reasons why they're doing things like that, but then they don't change the manuscript. That would not be advisable, because reviewers provide a comment to help you enhance the quality of the manuscript. They're not doing it to simply say, hey, you need to explain to me. They want you to explain to the future reader. So if you make some responses in the response to comments, then you need to tell the reviewer where in the manuscript did you make the corresponding changes, because that's the purpose of having the reviews, and reviewers are, not just wanting you to explain the situation or the questions to them only. So make sure you change the manuscript, you revise the manuscript as well. And the other issue with sometimes the author thought, well, I said that already, the reviewer didn't understand or misunderstood, therefore there's nothing wrong with my manuscript. Could be so. However, if the reviewers didn't understand, then the future readers may not understand as well. So you may be right, but you could put the message in a better way, in a clearer way, so that the reviewers could understand and future readers could understand. So there must be a reason for reviewers to provide that comment. And the other question is, as more studies use structural equation model, what is the difference from multiple regression, which is better? Well, that depends on your research design. Again, we're not against having structured equation modeling as a data analysis techniques. But if you use SEM, then there needs to be a good reason why the study the data should be analyzed with SEM, and depending on the hypotheses, depending on the models that you propose. And there's nothing wrong with multiple regression if that's, you're looking for the relationship between dependent and independent variable that could be solved by multiple regression, then you don't have to use SEM, right? So there is no better or worse comparing one with the other. So the next question is, what is your attitude or opinion about the introduction of metaverse in tourism and hospitality, whether it will be widely used in the future? Wow, that's a crystal ball question. I don't know. I think at the very beginning, people were very gung-ho about metaverse, and now it seems to be cooling down a little bit because of the challenges that it's not only from the user's perspective, but the supplier's perspective as well, in terms of the technology, whether we can really make it seamless and natural, and so I personally am a bit doubtful of whether metaverse in tourism and hospitality can be really becoming very popular among all the consumers. I'm sure there is a segment of it, a niche market, but I don't know about wide implementation of all the market segments. That's just my personal opinion. The other question is whether it's appropriate for young scholars to follow the hot issue like GAI. Well, there's a difference between hot issue and GAI. I don't know if GAI is just a hot issue or it's the future. If you see something that will be coming the future, of course, you need to pursue it. But personally, I would not pursue hot topic. It's just like in the old days when we studied consumer behavior or marketing, there is a difference between fashion and fad, right? So if you can see this coming, generative AI, I don't think it will go away. So you might as well begin to pay attention to address it, to study it, to research it. But hot issues, I always say the hot issue today could become cold tomorrow. So you need to be able to identify whether the issue will continue to be here in the next year or 2 or 5 years or 10 years, because researchers' careers you need to look at long term. I would suggest to, of course, nowadays we see people have multiple studies happening at the same time. You have multiple topics under your portfolio, which is fine. But I would strongly advise younger researchers have a long-term research agenda rather than all of them are one-off. Right? You can have a little quick study here and there, that is fine. I understand the pressure of publication, but if you're looking at a long-term career, 10, 20, 30 years, then really you need to have a very clear stream of research agenda that is coherent. 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, what do you want to be known for? If you're just pursuing hot topic one after another, then probably you don't have a very solid reputation in a particular disciplinary area that you can look back to and say, hey, I'm the expert in this area. So generative AI, I think it will be the future. So I wouldn't say it's a hot topic only. It is hot now, but it is not only a hot topic. So yeah, I would say go for it. If you have not only the application skill, but if you have any programming computer skill, that will certainly be very helpful. But if you have no interest in it, then you don't have to do it simply because everybody else is doing it, right? Definitely you should focus on that you're really interested in. Because like I said, you want to have a long-term career of having a clear research agenda 10, 20, 30 years. If you're not interested in it, you can't do it for 30 years. So you have to have something that you're really passionate about and you want to do it for the long term. Right, the next question, when exploring the role of destination in shaping tourist experience in qualitative research, is it more appropriate to use the term factors that contribute to tour experience or triggers instead of attributes? I'm not sure I have the overall picture to tell you exactly which word, which term should be used. There are some qualitative study terms and quantitative study terms. Those are obvious. For example, if you do antecedent consequences, then you don't want to use those terms in qualitative research. But I've seen people use factors, triggers, attributes, all of it in qualitative research. I don't think the specific terminology matters. Or I mean, I can tell you without knowing the context and the specific aims and objectives and the environment.
Good evening, Professor Xu, and good evening, everyone. First of all, thank you so much, Professor Xu, for this editor office hour. It has been so helpful for us as PhD students. Question is that recently our team has 3 papers being desk rejected by tourism management. We fully understand the editor's decision and we appreciate all the efforts behind. But it seems like each time we did not receive any specific comments about why our paper was rejected. And as PhD students, we're just a bit confused about how to further improve our manuscript in such cases. So I'm wondering about your advices for this.
So what did the letter say? Was it from me? It doesn't matter, but
no. So all 3 papers was rejected by using the same short paragraph: lack of contribution, no significance of methodology, no contribution of the discussions, findings, and contribution section.
All right. So do you think is it the way of expression? Is it the writing? Is it the do you think there is a strong theoretical foundation? Did you identify the current gap in the literature? I guess the question is, did you check all the boxes before you did the submission? And if you did, and if you disagree, you're welcome to contact the handling editor and seek additional information, right? I understand the frustration of getting papers rejected, especially desk rejected. But if you really want to seek additional information, not to argue, but to understand why a little bit more of the rationale of the decision, and you want to learn and improve, you're very welcome to contact the handling editor. I'm sure he or she or I will respond to you. I can guess the reason, because we honestly we all use a template, right? Because we're looking at 2,000 submissions a year. So reading 2,000 papers a year takes a lot of time on top of our full-time job. So to write a personalized response to each and every manuscript may not be humanly possible. However, if you have any concern, feel free to contact the editor so that because of your inquiry, we may go back to your manuscript and take another look and then identify a few more points for you. Yeah, so don't be afraid to contact the editor.
Okay, thank you, Professor Xu.
You're welcome. We have a category of publication called the viewpoint for tourism management. The next viewpoint paper coming out may be of interest to some of you. It's authored by 2 senior professors. They're talking about the framework bias, because earlier there was a question on SEM, and then a number of SEM modeling and in the same paper. Their argument is that very often we limit ourselves to the framework we developed rather than looking at the big picture, rather than answering a particular question. So if we set up the framework incorrectly, even though the data supported the framework, we still haven't done anything. We still haven't solved any real problem. So I think that piece may be helpful for some of you who raised the question, and also earlier the question of which theory is the most appropriate, because it is very, very important to select the right theory, to select the right framework. Otherwise, you're just trying to prove your framework rather than trying to solve a real life.
Yeah, just on the previous comment about the desk rejections, my view on it is that the trend towards higher and higher desk rejections is really a gift to the authors. I mean, I know it can be frustrating that you don't get a great in detail review back, but what you are getting is a comment that this paper is not going to be published in the journal. It's not of the quality for whatever reason that we're looking for. And you get the result, you get that back in a couple of weeks instead of waiting 4 months to get the reviewer's comments that ultimately may be in more detail, but are going to tell you the same thing, that it's going to be rejected. And by getting it back, knowing you have work that you're proud of and you think is good, but is not quite up to tourism management standards, means move down and find another journal where you have a better shot of having it. Either redo the work and work to make it better, or if you've exhausted what you can do on it, find it another home without waiting months to get that response. And certainly as somebody who reviews a lot, I appreciate getting articles to review that have a fighting chance to get accepted, instead of reading articles that have no chance. And I don't feel it's my job to do the work. Sorry, Ms. Xu, I liked your comments, but it's not my job as a reviewer to help to take a paper that's not of a reasonable quality for that journal and improve it, help you show you how to improve it. So as a reviewer, I want to review papers that are on the border, that they can go either way. And I don't want to get papers to review that have no chance to be accepted. And so I think the reviewers benefit, and I feel that the authors actually benefit from the trend towards desk rejections.
That's a good point too. Sometimes we get reviewers telling us, "Why did you send that to me? You should have desk rejected that piece," because reviewers' time is very, very precious. I was just at a couple of conferences, and there were editors panel at each of the conferences, and it's amazing that nowadays all the journals, it doesn't matter which tier, all the journals receive a large number of submission, and the average desk reject rate among the panel members were about 75%. So basically for those journals represented there, they were all saying, when we get 100 papers, 75 of them are desk rejected right away. And that's a lot of work for the journal editors, just to, desk reject. And that's not a good feeling. I don't like desk reject. I don't like rejecting people's paper, but basically that's what I do almost every day. Somebody asked me, what's the moment you enjoy the most as an editor? I always say the moment I click accept. That's the time I say, okay, I'm so happy for this person that goes through the process, and now the paper can be accepted. It's not a rejection that we enjoy.
I like, and other people are typing, and I should probably do that instead. But your recommendation before, I thought was really smart with young folks, which I assume I'm not, but I assume most of the people here are, of finding an area that you can claim as your own when it's time to do research. I'm really guilty of not ever doing that. That anybody who's read any of my work through the years know I basically do pop research, not hot topics like you said before, but just a topic, an interest, something at work, something with with one of our partner hotels or restaurants, but an issue that comes up that just seems interesting, a journal article that I read, and I read a ton of them, where the future research at the end, that's required, but it's real, it's good, and it gives you really good ideas for work that needs to be done, that somebody's already done the groundwork for you. And now you can say, good idea, I'm going to go, I think I can do that. Replication studies always being looked at there. But and I'm kind of guilty of always saying, ooh, that looks fun, and going and doing it. And I think if I were starting over in my career, the idea that you suggest of finding an area where you can be the real expert, that's how people get to know your name, because there's a topic and you're an expert in that field. Bob McKercher that you just put up, with everything he's done on doing good research, I would turn to McKercher and read his work with whenever I'm looking to figure out a good way to do my own research. And so many people, I mean, pick a topic and that they're the expert. I think that's really good advice that you've given.
Yeah, I learned that from my mistakes as well. Because in the early days, I was doing a lot of interesting things here and there, until I see somebody has a long career of doing a particular topic, and I was like, wow, that's really impressive. I wish I have done that. And also, I had to pay the price of jumping around, because eventually when you get to a certain rank and you want to get the promotion, very often they will ask you, what is the area of your expertise? What is your international reputation? And you have to pinpoint one or two areas. And I really had some difficulty with that, because I have been doing a lot of different things. So trying to tie that together took some creative efforts, but if I get a chance to do it again, definitely I will have to, I would focus on a particular area. And of course, if you have extra time, you can do other things, but there needs to be, just like a journal paper, you need to have a central storyline, need to have a spine, a very clear central storyline. It's the same for your career. You need to have a very clear research agenda as the main focus, and then you can do other things as you have the time and if you're interested in.
I heard some of the conversation around numbers of area or tourism research that lend itself to other disciplines, and it is the case that tourism research is approached from many disciplines. In this case, how can we maintain, based on your advice, that stick to one particular areas for the career track, or like building on expertise, for example? Because I also learned from some of the authors mentioned that if we want to do a good tourism research, we should also understand the theory, or maybe the concept that is outside tourism. So in this case, what is your advice to validate what you just advised? I'm a little bit confused whether we are understanding this from different angle, different aspect, or we stick to tourism, but looking it from other disciplinaries field. Thank you, Prof.
Well, yeah, I don't think there are any conflicts between focusing on one area and looking at tourism from the different angles. For example, somebody is known for branding research. Somebody is known for sustainability research. Somebody is known for, you know, for example, we have some very well-known researcher who has always been doing economics research or psychology related. So if you think about positive psychology, there are some names that will pop up. If you think about sustainability, there are some big names that will pop up. So they devoted their entire career to a particular focus area. That's what I meant. Rather than doing a little bit of metaverse today and doing gaming studies tomorrow, cruise travel the year after, you know, that means you're all over the place. So you need to stay with a particular agenda or topic or a disciplinary area to look at tourism phenomenon. That's what I meant.
Pulling that together with the previous comment, if you don't mind, just one quick thing to get your opinion on, Kathy, that 20 some years ago, I interviewed for a job and I was criticized that all of my research was published in hospitality tourism journals. And why wasn't I taking and extending it and putting it into management or marketing journals? That it would be good for me, good for the field. I divorced that recommendation with a thought similar to yours, in that that publishing in tourism journals at least would get me known within a body, where if I published a journal in an article in a marketing journal, nobody ever heard of me and they'll never hear of me again. But it was a black mark against me when I was applying for that job. You have an opinion?
Well, you probably apply for a job in a business school or management school, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah. I was asked that same question. I was interviewing for a job as a hospitality tourism professor in the business school, under a business school. So the business dean asked me, how come you didn't publish in generic business journals? And the perception was that it's easier to publish in hospitality tourism journals than business mainstream journals. That's where the question came from. But then my response was, I want to publish in a place where people will read my work. So that only when people read your work, you can make an impact, right? And then the dean was like, okay, so he didn't expect that answer, but he was like, okay. He didn't have any response to my answers, so I assumed that he was happy with the answer.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, it's 9:01. Our time is up. It's an excellent discussion today. Thank you all very much for your participation on the screen, verbally, and also in the chat boxes.